Welcome to the SKNFLUENCR podcast, a place where we can discuss, along with some very special guests, how beauty and fashion intersect with race, identity, and culture. Welcome back, folks. Today's guest is Aysha Harun. She is an Ethiopian-Canadian lifestyle creator currently based in Los Angeles, but originally from Toronto, Canada. She was one of the very first Black Hijabi YouTubers. So we are speaking with a legend today, folks. Now, one of my very, very good friends, Batul, who is also hijabi, she's Palestinian, currently based in Canada, she helped me come up with some of the questions for this conversation. And I spoke a little bit about this in this episode, but SKNFLUENCR's audience is very diverse. You all come from various racial, ethnic, and economic backgrounds and from all different religions, or no religion, like myself. But I think Batul came up with some really great questions that I think are not only relevant within the Muslim community, but also questions that I think that you guys, SKNFLUENCR's audience, might be interested in learning about. And that's really what SKNFLUENCR is all about. So I met Aysha around, I want to say like 6 years ago at VidCon, and she'll tell you all about this story of how we met. And we just stayed in touch since then. I think Aysha is such a good influencer. I think she's really, really good at her job. And if you already know her, period, like as you should. But if you don't know her, then I hope that this podcast episode serves as a really great introduction. So without further ado, let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, her. So, hello, Miss Aysha.
Hello, Asia Jackson.
Thank you so much for coming on the SKNFLUENCR podcast.
I'm honored, honestly.
Yeah. I have gotten a lot of requests to have you on.
Oh my God.
So I'm very happy that you're here.
Wait, for real?
Yeah.
I love that.
No, yeah, I put on the SKNFLUENCR Instagram story. I was like, who do you want to see on the SKNFLUENCR podcast? And a lot of people were like, I want to see Aysha. And I was like, yes.
I love that. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Is Aysha an Arabic name?
Yeah, so it's an Arabic name. I believe it means life.
Oh, okay.
That could be wrong. It could also mean princess. I don't know. Maybe I should Google that.
No, yeah, because a lot of people were saying like, oh, your name, they were saying it to me,
Asia.
like, oh yeah, your name is very similar to like this Arabic name and it means princess or something like that.
I think it is princess.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Aysha.
Yeah. So what's really exciting is that I have a very, very, very good friend of mine who is also a hijabi. Mm-hmm. She's Palestinian. And she like helped me like come up with some questions for this interview. So I'm very excited. I think we came up with some questions that are like very relevant within the Muslim community, but also, you know, SKNFLUENCR's audience is very, very diverse.
Yeah.
And there's people of different racial, ethnic backgrounds and of all different religions. So I, you know, wanted to include some questions also that like people might be interested in learning about. So, you know, each episode of SKNFLUENCR, I like to be kind of like a learning experience for everyone. Fun. Yeah. So hopefully, you know, people will learn something from this.
Yes. I feel like we should also mention like how we met, because it's kind of a funny story.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I was just telling Z. It was back in 2017.
Yep.
Do you remember?
I do.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was VidCon. It was my first VidCon. I was so nervous.
It was my first VidCon too.
Yeah. And they somehow got me on like the main stage and I was terrified. And I was like, okay, I think I can do like a hijab tutorial, talk about like my hijab experience and stuff online. And then day of, I was like, I can't do this. I'm backing out. Like, I'm so nervous. And I was like, I don't even know who I'm going to do this hijab tutorial on. And then they were like, oh, it's Asia. And I was like, who's Asia? And they sent me it. And then I was like, oh, she's cute. And then we met and it was just like instant. And you made me feel so comfortable. And we did our little hijab tutorial.
We did.
And it was
in that
so cute.
Huge auditorium.
That was literally terrifying.
Yeah. I remember like right before we went on, you were like in the back, like rehearsing like your thing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to talk.
Literally. And like from that day, you know, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah.
but I would never do it again. I would never do it again. It was so nerve-wracking.
Because back then you were still living in Canada.
I was still living in Canada.
Yeah.
I had just graduated college,
right. Yeah.
literally like a month prior. And yeah, I just had never done anything like that before. Like I think I had just also hit 100,000 subscribers
I remember
on
that.
YouTube
Yeah.
like the week prior.
Yeah.
It was a lot. But honestly, I'm like, I did that.
You sure did.
I wouldn't do it again though.
So what did you go to college for?
So I studied business administration.
Oh, okay.
And I focused on marketing and brand communication.
Oh, so this is like the same thing basically.
Yeah. And it's funny because like towards the end of my like university experience, like I was taking a lot of marketing and brand communication classes, and I was also like doing influencer stuff at the same time and on YouTube, and like I worked that into every single part of like my projects. And for whatever reason, the professors were like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like influencer marketing is like not very viable for like all of, and I'm like, look at us now.
Look at us now.
Exactly. So it's definitely really helped with like my influencer career. I feel like just like taking it more seriously. But at the end of the day, I feel like it like, I mean, people don't go to college now and are like super successful.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like not for everyone, but I personally really, really loved my experience, and I'm glad that I did something that's relevant to what I'm doing now.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you get into influencing? Because I just want to say this right now. You are such a good influencer.
Oh my God.
Like you're really good at what you do.
Thank you. So I started, I was 16 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I did not know that you started that early.
2011. Okay, well, technically, I actually started in 2009 in like 8th grade. I was doing YouTube music covers.
Oh my God.
So like all of the like the Tori Kellys and like I'm forgetting all the people that I used to watch, AJ Raphael.
Oh yeah.
Like, I was obsessed with all of them, and I was like, I could do that. Like I can sing pretty well. And I started posting like covers, and they were actually like getting some traction. I think I had about 1,000 subscribers, and then the beauty scene kind of like picked up around 2010. And I was just kind of like, I want to switch to beauty. So I made a separate channel, and that one kind of just like became more of like a passion for me. I started off just doing like makeup tutorials here and there. And then I feel like at the time, because I started so early, there was literally like no other Black hijabis on YouTube doing beauty. So I feel like I kind of created a name for myself in that space. And it was really cool because I got to interact with a lot of like people that looked like me online, and like, you know, we could talk about beauty, and it was this fun space. And I only went full time with it in 2017. So I don't know, 6 years later.
Yeah.
After I graduated, and honestly, it was the best decision I could have made. And I'm like super thankful with like how it happened. 'Cause like, I feel like if I started now, it would be very different. It'd be for like money and like all of that, you know.
Right, yeah.
Back then I was just making embarrassing videos in my childhood bedroom, and people liked it. So I continued. Yeah.
Did you, when you lived in Canada, because you just mentioned that it was really cool to be able to connect with other like Black hijabis online and like really have that community for yourself. Where you grew up in Toronto, were there other Black hijabis like you? So you grew up around that
For sure.
Yeah,
Toronto is super diverse. So yeah, born and raised in Toronto. I moved here like 4 years ago. It was a little bit of a culture shock because Toronto is literally like, I am not the only Black hijabi in the room a lot of the time. Walking around, you just see so many cultures, like just so many religions, like just it's so diverse. And like anytime I go back to Toronto now after living in LA, I feel culture shock because I'm like, damn, like there are actually a lot of so many beautiful different faces. So I feel like growing up, like I was able to like really just kind of be myself. The high schools and stuff I went to were majority white, especially my college. Like I was maybe one of like 5 or even 3 like Black people in my program.
Wow.
Like when I graduated. So that was kind of crazy. It was a little bit different for me. I feel like I went through a little bit of an identity crisis there. But overall, I think just growing up in Toronto like really made me who I am. And like, although I was still able to connect with a lot of like Black Muslims all over the world, like in beauty, it's not like I was lacking that in my life. It was just more like, whoa, there's so many of us out there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was really cool to like kind of create a space for people like me, you know?
Yeah.
And now there's like hundreds and thousands of people, you know, beautiful Black women that are like doing this influencer stuff, and it's really, really great to see.
Yeah. So disclaimer, y'all, today's gardening day. So if you hear some buzzing in the background, there's nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. But, you know, we're here. We're doing it. So what is like how does your experience as a Black hijabi in Toronto different from being in LA?
Oh my God. It's night and day, honestly. Like Toronto, it's not really a thought that like, oh, I'm a Black hijabi walking around this grocery store right now. It's not a thought because there's people that look like me everywhere.
Right.
Here, it's very much like I'm thinking about that all the time because I am the only one. You know, like I live in downtown and I'm walking around downtown and like there's no other hijabis. I feel like a little bit out of place sometimes, especially like sometimes going to events and stuff. There's not a lot of us out here either. Whenever I see like even whether it's Black hijabi or not, anytime I see any other hijabi, I'm like running to them, I'm like, hi, like where the hell did you come from? Because like you don't see them here. So I feel like I've kind of had to. I'm glad I moved when I did because I kind of like knew who I was at that point and I didn't feel like I had to like I mentioned, I had kind of an identity crisis in college. Like I was like, I'm around some people who don't look like me and I'm like trying to fit into like what they're doing and whatnot. But when I moved here, I was so sure of myself and like who I was as a person, both online and in real life. So I was able to just kind of like make genuine connections with people and like be authentically myself and like fit into that. But yeah, I mean, it's still always like in the back of my mind. I'm like, I definitely look very different than everyone else here. I don't do the same things as everyone else here. But I think, I don't know, I've really like grown in LA, like in so many aspects of my life. So I'm thankful for that. But yeah, I feel like anytime I go to Orange County, there's a lot of hijabis,
really?
Which is really cool. Yeah.
Oh.
Orange County, that's where like all the Muslim population is.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah. But yeah, here there's few and far in between. But
yeah,
I think because like I mentioned, I'm so sure of myself, it hasn't been that great of like an issue, I feel like.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, though. I feel like it's kind of difficult to be a young person, just in general, like no matter your background. It's just so hard to like be a young person making content online.
100%.
Because like I know just for myself, like I started when I was, I don't know, like 22. That's when I went like full time. I'm so glad I didn't start when I was a teenager.
Yes.
Because I did not know who I was as a teenager. So that's why whenever I see like teenagers creating content and like being, I guess like criticized for doing things, I kind of really feel for them.
For sure.
Because when I was a teenager, I was a dumbass.
Yeah.
Like I was so stupid and I thought I knew everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And I didn't know anything.
Yep. No, I totally agree with that. Like, I feel like I was actually talking about this recently, I think like just on my channel, and because I just recently hit like 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, and people were just like, oh my God, you've been on here for so long. Like, how have you not, why don't you have 1 million yet? You know, or like, I thought you hit this a while ago. And I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm 27 now. I'm so thankful that like I'm able to grow my platform at the age that I am right now. Because if that had been when I was 60, I started my channel at 16. Imagine if it was like overnight success. I wouldn't have been able to accept that. I wouldn't have been able to handle that.
Yeah.
So I'm just like so thankful that like everything has been blossoming in the ways that it has been. Because yeah, I mean, there's like 17, 18, 20-year-olds, like, you know, they have so much responsibility now because of who they are online. And they don't like, they're not able to just grow within themselves without everyone criticizing their every move, which is just like terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Even in my early 20s when I was doing content, that really affected me. Like people's commentary about my identity, what I looked like, how I was living my life, that really affected me. So I can't imagine what it's like for like literal teenagers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And the internet can be a scary place. Like, just, I mean, I have everything online, you know, from like me going to prom to graduating high school to graduating college to getting married the first time, getting a divorce, like going through the pandemic alone, away from family, getting married again. Like, it's just, you can literally see so many points of my life online. And it's been like the stage that I'm in right now is like learning boundaries. I don't know if you ever struggled with this, because I feel like YouTube can be such a personal platform. I feel like people who are on TikTok and Instagram now don't understand that like personal connection that you have with your viewers on YouTube, and you feel like you just want to be so open and share every single aspect of your life. forgetting that like it's okay to create boundaries sometimes, like especially as you get older. And I'm like so thankful that I learned that, because like it just, you know, so many people are just so entitled to like what parts of their life they want from you, you know? So
how did you figure out that you needed to create boundaries online?
I think it all kind of came through like, you know, going through like a divorce and breakup online. I think that's when I sat back for the first time and I was like, damn, like I really have to share this most intimate part of my life with the internet. I know I'm going to get like a million questions, and I did, and I still continue to. So how am I going to like continue my content moving forward? And that's kind of when I sat down with myself. I was also going through therapy at the time, so like my therapist really helped me to like realize that I wasn't creating boundaries online, and that's why I felt so much anxiety over like sharing different things about my life. So I think I honestly took a break from YouTube for a little bit. It wasn't long, but I took a break and I kind of just reevaluated like where I want my content to go, like what type of person I want to be online and all of that, while still maintaining like my super authentic self. Because I think that's why a lot of people have connected to my content. Like I've been able to just be completely myself, share so many intimate moments of my life, whether it's family, friends, all of that. But at some point, like for my own mental health and my peace, like I need to be able to just like step back and be like, you know what? I don't need to answer every single question. Like I used to be the girl on Q&As and I looked through everything and I'm like, I would answer every single one, even the ones that like made me feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, why am I doing that?
Right, yeah.
Like what is the purpose of that? And I think through hearing people's comments, like majority of them were obviously super supportive, people being like, take your time, whatever. But then it was also the people like, well, you owe us this, you know, you shared so much of this, so like why can't you share all of the rest of it? And that's when I was like, okay, this is some weird parasocial relationship that people think they have with me, and it's not healthy. So I started just like sharing a little bit less, and then once I got comfortable with that level of sharing that I had, I was like, okay, this is a new normal for me. You know, I'm able to just like experience life, meet new people, like have experiences, go on trips and not feel obligated to bring my vlog camera and vlog every single second, you know? And I just, that's kind of how I created that balance. And like now I'm like so much happier. It's not like I would constantly think about, oh, I need to record this moment.
Right.
Constantly.
Right,
Always had my vlog camera. I was that girl that was at, you know, friends kickbacks and stuff with my camera, and I'm like, I know that's annoying.
Yeah.
Like, because I see that now and I'm like, that's annoying. I just want to chill right now.
Right, yeah.
So that's that was like the connect for me. I was like, I just need to chill a little bit.
Yeah.
People don't need to know every single aspect of your life.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I feel like for me, because since I've started a YouTube channel, I've never been in a relationship since then.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really feel like the pressure to share anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes people ask me like, oh, can you do a video about like why you're single or like whatever? And I'm like, honestly, it's a really boring story. Like, I don't think people want to like hear about it. So that's the boundary that I've kind of created for myself, because I don't have to talk about
exactly.
But also I do kind of like resonate with what you said about like recording everything, every single moment.
Yeah.
I think that brought a lot of anxiety for me. And, you know, we always talk about that work-life balance, and I felt like there was no balance there.
Yeah.
My work was my life.
It is, yeah.
And so I had to figure out how I wanted to authentically share things that were going on in my everyday life without feeling like I had to be on all the time, or without feeling like, oh my God, I forgot to record this, so it's not going to be in the vlog and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And, you know, now I'm not going to have enough footage to put in the YouTube video. And it's just like, it was, I don't know, it was a lot to contend with. And I think as any creative, you have to like kind of find that balance for yourself, because what's balanced for you is probably different from what's balanced for me.
Exactly.
And so I think it's very, very personal to each creator. And have you ever noticed that since you started making boundaries, your viewership was affected in any way?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like obviously, you know, the topics that people love to hear about are like dating and relationships and like marriage and like all of those. And I know anytime I post videos like that, they will get lots of views. And then when I just share random things about my life, it's like not as much, you know? So it's kind of like, it's a really interesting balance of like, okay, do I share this because it'll help my channel and help, you know, my career grow, or do I keep this private? But also the opposite has happened. I feel like even though I don't really share much about like my current relationship and my marriage, people are more into my life, but into just like my day to day, which is really interesting. It's like, was I not interesting when I was single? Like, so it's really funny. I'm kind of shading my audience, but
maybe it has something to do with like the pandemic. I feel like everyone was a different person during that time, and it was like we're all at home. We're all looking at ourselves in the mirror every single day. Yeah. We're staying with ourselves. And you were alone during the pandemic. So was I. Yeah. I learned a lot about myself during that time.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. A lot about myself, but also how much I actually enjoyed being alone. Like, I'm an extreme extrovert. Like, I love being around people. I love meeting new people, all of that. So I felt like, you know, going through a pandemic alone, like, would be extremely lonely. And at times it was. But majority of the time, I kind of loved it. I was like, this is the first time in my life where I'm like not living with roommates, not living at home with my family, not living with a significant other. Like, I get to actually just learn who I am and like what I actually enjoy doing, you know, going on hikes by myself, going on walks by myself, like just going to the beach by myself just to read a book or watch the sunset. Like, I learned so many things that I just genuinely loved. And I'm like, I'm pretty cool to hang out with, like, you know, just by myself.
Right, yeah.
And I really just enjoyed my own company. And that was like the first time in my life where I always felt like I was a very hyper independent person. But this was the first time I actually proved it. You know, like going on solo trips, stuff like that. It's like, I learned so much about myself when I was alone, more than I did with like any other aspect of my life. So, you know, being alone can be scary. And I actually got a lot of questions about this during that time too. They're like, can you do videos about like how to live alone, or like how lonely do you get? Like just different things like that. And I feel like a lot of people feel this like sense of like you're a sad woman if you just like live alone, and like people just feel bad for you. They sympathize. Yeah. But I'm like, I'm totally fine. Like, I actually love it. And I'm not putting up a front. Like, I actually love it. Right, so like now on the opposite end of like living with a significant other again, I'm like, damn, I kind of enjoyed my space. No, but
it's funny you brought that up though, because like I remember this one specific time. I don't remember who I was talking to, but I had just met a person and they were asking like, oh, do you have a boyfriend? And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. And I was like, sorry for what?
Literally, like huh? I don't need your sympathy.
Yeah, like I was like so confused that this person like felt sorry for me because I was single. I was like, that is so crazy. Yeah. And I feel like it's, I think for women, we're like raised to like really care about not being single. Yeah. And so when you say that you're single, for some reason people are like, oh my god, I'm so sorry that is happening to you. But and I'm like, I'm not.
I'm enjoying life. I'm building a career.
Exactly.
Like I'm, you know, just living life, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's honestly, it was the most empowering like part of my life, for sure.
Wow, that's awesome.
For sure. Yeah.
It's so funny that you brought up your experience, because I'm an extreme introvert. And so I was like always by myself. Like even before the pandemic, there would be like 5 days where I wouldn't leave the house. Wow. And now I guess that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But before the pandemic, that was like, whenever I told someone that, they were like, you're insane. So I'm like really used to being alone. But during the pandemic, I was forced to be alone. And so that was when I realized like, oh, I actually really like experiencing life with other people. And so I think it's really interesting how an extrovert learned to love being alone and an
Exactly.
introvert learn to love being around other people.
Yeah,
That is
it's like-
so interesting.
I think it's when you're forced into a situation that is not of nature to you, you're like, wait a second, the grass is kind of greener on the other side. Like, but I mean, I think that's beautiful. Like we learn so much about ourselves in like this, I mean, it wasn't short. It felt very long.
Yeah.
It was a very long pandemic,
Yeah.
but it's really great that like a lot of people were able to like come out of it really knowing who they are and like what they want out of life too.
Yeah. Yeah. So enough about life talk.
Yeah.
This is SKNFLUENCR. So we're here to talk about beauty and fashion.
Yay! My favorite.
So I have a bunch of questions here for you. So, and these are such good questions. Okay. I can't wait to like,
Let's hear them.
okay. So my friend Batul, who
Yes.
is who came up with a lot of these questions. She also lives in Canada actually, but she's from
Oh.
Edmonton.
Wait, I feel like I've seen her on you've shown her a couple
Yes.
times.
Yeah, she's been on my YouTube channel
okay,
before.
cool. Yeah, I've definitely seen her.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Wait,
Yeah,
how did you guys meet if she's from Canada?
we met online.
Oh,
We met on Twitter.
No way.
So I'm a military brat.
Yeah.
So I have moved all over the place all the time. And
Yeah.
the only constant in my life were my online friends.
Aw.
Because like I was moving in a different country sometimes, like
Yeah.
every 1 to 2 years. So I didn't really have like a solid group of friends that I grew up with.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like growing up, a lot of my friends have been online. And yeah, I've known her since like 2013.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So wholesome.
But she asks, how do you define or think about modesty and what does it mean to you?
So this is a great question actually, because I feel like my idea of modesty has really evolved from like when I, first started my channel to now, because I think, growing up in Toronto, I was around a lot of Muslims. I feel like I didn't really have to prove my modesty or prove like any type of my being because I wore the hijab. Like, I don't know. There was just like people, we wore the hijab, but we were also people in it, like in our own selves,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like growing up online now, I have been shamed a lot for like the way that I dress and the way that I define modesty and the way that like I choose to live my life. And it's like, prior to being online, I never felt that like weird pressure. But it kind of I came to a realization that like everyone obviously has their very own idea of what modesty is to them. Some people obviously I choose to wear the hijab. I've been wearing it since I was 12 or 13 years old. But I feel like the way that I dress might not be in line with other people who consider themselves modest. Some
Right.
people consider themselves modest if they're wearing like a full-on abaya or covering head to toe and stuff like that. And I'm cool with like, experimenting with trends and whatnot. Like what I consider modest is what I consider modest for myself, but it's not necessarily what everyone else thinks. So I think for me, it's been kind of tug and pull. Learning what styles match with me and also evolving as well. Like understanding that modesty in terms of Islam is kind of like one way or another. And learning like how do I fit into that? What am I going to do that makes me feel comfortable? I wear the hijab. I dress modestly in my sense, looser clothing, and I make it my own thing. Sometimes I used to wear the turban, stuff like that. But I think also the other aspect of it is like, I am a curvy woman. I'm not a typical like slim, model figure that a lot of modest influencers have. And that in and of itself redefines modesty for me, because what's modest on me is going to look completely different on someone who has no curves at all, and vice versa. So it's kind of been, I kind of have shaped my sense of modesty around being a Black curvy woman. I love experimenting with fashion. I still consider myself dressing modest, but yeah, you might see my curves because I have them and
Right.
I can't hide them, So I think just like sticking to what feels right to me and what feels right to my connection with God has really helped with like my sense of modesty. I feel like that answer was all over the place, but it kind of is
No,
like
that
this.
was great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of this like constantly evolving thing for me, and learning and growing through it too.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up how like the shape of your body kind of changes how people perceive what to be what is modest or not, because I feel like a lot of like curvier Black women experience that, like they can't wear like a low cut top the same way that I can, because I'm a lot smaller. I don't have a lot of curves, and for some reason when I wear a certain top, it's classy, but when they wear it, it's like, oh, like why are you showing all that off?
Exactly.
So I'm really glad that you brought that up. I think that's a really interesting point.
Exactly. There was this sound that was trending on TikTok that was like, do I show off my boobs, or do I just have big boobs and exist? And it's like, I'm just existing in life as a curvy woman. I dress modestly, but that might not be the same to you, because maybe you don't have the curves I do, like, you know. It's this really awkward shift sometimes.
Do you ever feel like you're responsible for like the hijabi community? Like, I don't know. I feel like if someone who's not part of the community sees you and they're like, oh, that's how all of them are. Do you ever feel that responsibility?
I mean, I do. I think even just like walking down the street, anyone can usually tell, who knows anything about Islam, that I am a Muslim woman. And, you know, someone who doesn't wear the hijab, they don't really have that same responsibility on their shoulders, because they can kind of blend in. And, you know, either one is a choice for that person. For me, I do choose to like obviously represent my faith. And while I don't want to be coined as like a spokesperson for Islam, and I don't think any other hijabi ever wants to, there is a sense of responsibility that you have with that, because people will automatically, you know, assume that like, okay, if one hijabi is doing this, that means all of them are doing it. Right. Which is a really dumb generalization, but that's just how humans like to, a lot of humans like to generalize. And especially in the online community. So obviously, you know, with the certain things that I do, the brand deals that I take on, the types of events that I go to and share, I'm always like, it's always in the back of my mind, like, you know, that might seem like a lot of pressure, but at the same time, I feel like honored for that responsibility. Like I'm able to actually hopefully positively represent, you know, a group of women. And while I don't represent every single one of them, I do make sure that I am, like I said, just like cognizant of like what I'm doing and all of that. But I mean, at the same time, there are so many different hijabis and all over the world that have completely different viewpoints, experiences in life. And that's what I love about the fact that there's so many influencers, like hijabi influencers, popping up now, because you can literally find anyone that fits to your taste. And I love that. Like if my content and the way that I represent my life doesn't represent you, you can find someone else, right? You know, you can unfollow, you can find someone else. And I love that. So I think it takes a little bit of the pressure off for sure. But there is always a little bit for sure.
Yeah, and also speaking to like the diversity of hijabis, like how do you feel like your experience as a Black hijabi specifically differs from anyone else? I mean, you know, Black women in general, we are the most disrespected woman in America. So adding hijab to that, it's kind of like a double whammy. Like, here we go. Like triple minority here. That was really tough for me. I feel like in the beginning parts, in terms of being an influencer, in the beginning parts of my career, because I absolutely noticed, especially in Canada, like a lot of the opportunities were going to, you know, people who didn't look like me, or, you know, brands would reach out to hijabis for their tokenism, but it would be like an Arab hijabi. You'd never see a Black hijabi in an influencer campaign or anything like that. So I feel like I really, really had to like work like 10 times harder. You know, but at the same time, I didn't really focus on that. It was something that I understood. I was like, this is just the fact. But I never like sat in my pity, like, oh, this woe is me. Like, I can't believe that I have to do this. And like, this person's getting this opportunity and I'm not, because I'm a Black hijabi. Right. I didn't really like sit in my misery. I was just kind of like, okay, that's fine. Like, noted, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to get these opportunities and I'm going to succeed and on all of that. And I didn't make an excuse for myself. So I feel like the non-Black influencer community in the like Muslim space, they definitely like in the earlier years of like influencers,
you know, they wouldn't like give Black people their flowers, which kind of sucks. And I feel like now it's kind of become a more like accepting space, which I love. You're seeing a lot more Black hijabis in different like Arab campaigns, for example, which never happened ever, like maybe 5-10 years ago. There was always like an underlying sense of racism in that community, which is like hard. It's a hard pill to swallow because you're like, okay, well, we're all Muslim. We're taught that everyone is equal, whether, you know, your skin color, your race, anything. But obviously humans don't, you know, oblige with that all the time. So it's just kind of like giving grace to yourself and not, like I said, sitting in your misery and just like accepting who you are, loving who you are unconditionally, and just like letting the world see that.
Yeah. I love that. You brought up very briefly like about tokenism.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt tokenized when doing brand deals, and how do you deal with that? Because I know that for me, sometimes I do feel that, and it's like, yeah, I always talk about being Black and Filipino, and I'm like really loud and proud about who I am, because I have a lot of pride and love for my cultures, but also sometimes I do feel like brands like tokenize me when I like enter a space with a brand and I'm like the only one that looks different. And it's like, oh, I'm really honored to be here and to be representing both of my communities, but at the same time, like, why am I the only one?
Yeah, no, 100%. And you saying that, like, there's one instance that like instantly got brought into my head, and this was a brand trip like 4 years ago, and I remember I was actually late to it because I had missed my flight. But anyways, I got there, and I was, you know, chatting with the other influencers, and they were just kind of like, oh my God, like, we're so thankful you're here, because we were looking around at ourselves and all of them were white, and they were kind of like, why would they only invite, because even the white people felt that way. They're like, why would they only invite like 3 white influencers? And they were like, when you came here, we were like, okay, at least there's like one. And that was the first time I was kind of like, damn, like, I'm really the token here.
Yeah. Like,
they invited 3 white influencers because that's what they wanted, and they kind of like threw me in there. And that was the first time I was like, damn, this happens, and like, this is a situation that I'm in. It's tough because it's like, on one end, it helps your career,
right?
You know, just being real, it helps your career when you are kind of placed in those you're tokenized, and you are the only person in that realm that like gets that experience, which like sucks for the grand scheme of things. For you in that moment, it's great, but I always make sure that when I'm in those spaces, I make it known that like, this is not acceptable. You know, whether it's talking to the brands and being like, it would have been really nice to see like some other Black girls here or something, you know, like I'm very vocal about that. Anytime I'm invited on a panel and I'm the only Black person there, I will obviously mention that as well. And I think like the influencer space has gotten better with tokenism for sure. It's not 100% there yet. But I think with the fact that like brands will be called out now, like, it's not even like a thing where like you might be called out in the back end, like people will call you out straight up on TikTok now.
Absolutely.
And so I think because of that, they're a little more like aware of like, okay, let's not be performative here. Let's actually look through and like who aligns with our space, you know, who aligns with our products, and like reach out to them. But there's still a long way to go. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how you deal with that, because it's, you know, you wanna obviously remain true to yourself, but at the same time, it's like, this is your livelihood, this is your career at the same time. So it's like, if you aren't, you might be invited to these spaces to be a token, but maybe that's like the step in the right direction, because while you're there, you can call them out, you can mention something, and maybe the next time it'll change, and you might give an opportunity to someone else that looks like you. Yeah. I feel like as the tokens, we do have a responsibility to kind of bring up these issues, because if we feel that way, they're not going to know until we tell them. Exactly. And I mean, that's just the way it's going to be. They are not in our shoes. They have no idea what it's like for us. So we have to be really vocal about that. Yeah. I remember I went on a brand trip, and there was like this ambassador program that they had, and the influencers that they chose in previous years were very skinny, like same size. And so the year that I joined the ambassador program, they invited a plus size influencer to be part of it. So we were like, oh yeah, that's awesome, I'm really glad that you're here. But then as one of the events
as part of like the ambassador program. They took us to a clothing store, but they didn't have any clothes that would fit her.
Wow.
And so it's like, you know, it's really great that brands are being cognizant of like these disparities, but you also have to be active in that, because you can't just invite a plus size influencer, take us to a clothing store and not have anything for her. It's just like inviting like a Black person for your makeup launch and not having a shade for them. It's just like, you know, I feel like that's one of the issues that a lot of people have with tokenism. Like, oh, you know, we're here and we're visible, but are we being catered to like everyone else is?
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel like I haven't been, first of all, that experience is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like I've been to showrooms around LA. Like when I first moved here, my management would kind of take me to different showrooms and stuff. And like, it was the same thing. Like at that point I was probably like a size 10, which is barely, it's not even plus size. It's regular sizing. But every single showroom I went to a size 6.
Oh, wow.
And the awkwardness, you know, of that is like, it just sucks. So I can't even imagine like on a brand trip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it sucks. But I think, shoot, I'm forgetting my point
Train
here.
of thought.
Train of thought. I like went back to that part. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, I think I never really take on campaigns where like, it's a tokenism in terms of like they don't even have my shade. That's just like, no, I'm not doing that. And there's been times where like I will, especially now, I'm very, very cognizant of like what brand deals I take on. I will like, if it's a brand maybe I've never heard of and like they're sending me product to try out and I end up liking it, I'll do a quick swipe through their Instagram. And if I do not see a Black person within the first row or two, and it's just like I'm scrolling, really looking for, I'm not doing that brand deal. I don't care. Like, clearly, I am a token here.
Right.
It's very clear. You know, at the very least, put some Black people or some women of color, even an Asian woman.
Yeah.
Anybody. Right. Why are there only white women here and you're reaching out to a Black hijabi for your campaign? That makes no sense.
Yeah, I feel like that really underlines what they're trying to do here.
Exactly. Yeah, there's some brands that are very obvious in that sense, and there's some that like aren't as much. Maybe like the brand trip that you went on probably wasn't as much, you know. But I think the influencer space has definitely gotten better.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not
I remember like
there.
the first brand trip that I ever went to was in 2017. I was super excited, you know, oh my God, I'm like an influencer with my first brand trip. But I was being invited with like other women, and there were a lot of women of color on that trip. So I didn't really feel tokenized, which felt really awesome. But there were a lot of other women of color there that had been doing this for years. And like, this was like their 25th brand trip. So I felt like a newbie in that way. Yeah. And I remember we were doing product demos of like the brand's new launches or whatever. And there was this darker skinned Black influencer that was there, and she raised her hand and she was like, this color doesn't work for me, so I don't think I can, you know, show this to my followers.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, you can say stuff like that?
Yeah.
Like, that really empowered me to like find my voice in front, because like when you're invited to a brand trip, you feel like you want to kiss their ass.
Like, literally, prim and proper, sharing everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And so when she said that like, I'm just really glad that she was on that trip, because it made me realize that, oh, I do have a voice and I can use this to speak up about it. Because after she raised her hand, they like went and talked to her, and like she explained like, you know, you can't have me on this trip because a lot of my followers are of a similar skin tone. This is why they follow me. So I'm not going to, you know, promote a product that they can't even use. Yep. And I don't know, that was just like really cool for me, and I love that. I'm really glad that she did that.
I love that she did that too. I kind of wish I was there to witness it.
Right. Yeah, it was glorious.
Yeah.
But another question that she has here, which I think is an interesting one. How have you defined and thought about beauty growing up, because your mom wears hijab, and how has that affected your outlook on beauty?
Yeah, so my mom, she wears a hijab. I think she started wearing her hijab around like 25 years old. So she was a little older than when I was. But ever since I've known her, ever since I popped out of her, she's been wearing it. So I think like my idea of beauty with her, like obviously I saw the hijab as a beautiful thing from the start. It was never like a question of will I wear it? I kind of knew I wanted to. It was just kind of a matter of when. And, you know, she grew up with her, you know, certain style. And I just like, I remember like sneaking into her drawers and always trying to steal her scarves, and she'd get so upset with me. I don't know why. Probably because I got them dirty all the time. But she was a very minimal makeup girly. Like, she didn't really wear much except for eyeliner. So that was actually the first product I think that I ever wore. Because like she always wore eyeliner. Anytime we left the house, it was eyeliner, and then she had this one red lipstick compact, and she'd put that on, and like she just looked so beautiful to me. She had her freckles and everything.
Oh,
yeah. And I think like that was kind of my idea of beauty, just like minimal beauty. And I think like when I decided to wear the hijab, I was in 6th grade. I think I was like going into my 6th grade, and I was like, I'm just going to put it on like at the start of this new year, or at the start of this school year. And, you know, she really encouraged it, which like really helped. I think also, obviously, she was raised in Africa, very different from where I was raised. Her values and morals were like it was almost like her parents' values and morals.
Right.
So I think for her, it was a different shift, because like I wanted to experiment with my hijab style. And she was just kind of like, no, there's only one way to wear it. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, that's great for you. But, and I think it was kind of this like interesting shift of like, you know, they grew up just kind of like doing every single thing their parents told them to.
right.
Whereas I grew up with like, I had a voice, I had like individuality. I wanted to do things on my own terms. And we had a little bit of a struggle. I'm not going to lie. We did. But I think like over time, she just kind of learned that's just the type of person that I am. So I'm glad she had that like positive outlook on hijab, at least, that encouraged me to wear it. I never felt like I had to. But you know, at the time that I did put it on, it was like the right move for me. And I think like, I wouldn't say like she shaped my idea of beauty, because like I said, she was very minimal makeup, eyeliner and lipstick. And I'm not that anymore. I do love a minimal look, but I'm gonna do more than eyeliner and lipstick, you know. But it was just like, it was cool to see like her little perfume drawer and everything.
Aww.
Like, it's just, yeah. I mean, it was really beautiful.
Yeah. What kind of eyeliner look did she do? Was it like a winged situation or?
So it's actually like the original, like have you heard of like kajal eyeliner?
Oh yeah.
So that was actually, instead of it being a paste, it was a powder. And it was, I don't know if you've ever seen like, I mean, they have these still in Ethiopia, but it was literally like a metal tube. How do I describe this? It kind of looked like, is it weird to call it an urn? It was like this little like tube with metal. It was a metal stick, and there was black powder in it, and you lift it and you literally stick the metal in your eye.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And that was like what I grew up knowing.
Oh.
I didn't really know the regular eyeliner.
Right.
So, you know, and she used to put that on me when I was a child too, which was interesting. I was terrified of it because it was literally this metal rod with like black powder on it. But that was my idea of it. And then she would just like kind of put it in her waterline and her tight line, and that was it. She never did a wing or anything. It was just kind of like a bold, like dark eyeliner look inside, but not on the outside.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's all she did with lipstick.
Yeah. So since your mom she was a minimal makeup girly,
Yeah.
what made you want to explore different types of glam?
Honestly, YouTube. Like I am a true internet kid.
Yeah.
Like I grew up dial-up internet. That's what it's called, right? Yeah. Dial-up. And every like new stage of the internet, I was on there, you know, like MySpace and all of that. So when YouTube came around, my brother actually introduced me to YouTube, and that's kind of like, I got into the music scene first. And then I can't remember exactly who the first beauty guru I ever watched was. I have a feeling it was like Juicy Star 07.
Yeah.
Like Blair.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, this is cool. Like they're just like doing their makeup and chatting. And it was such an interesting world for me. And that I never really had, I grew up with an older brother. So obviously he wasn't into makeup for himself. My older cousins weren't into makeup at that time either. So I feel like I kind of got everyone into makeup through YouTube. So that's kind of like where everything came up. And I think the first thing I ever bought, I think it was for like it was in 7th grade. I think it was an eyeliner, but instead of the powder that my mom uses, it was like an eyeliner stick, and I would just like use that every single day. And then it graduated to blue eyeshadow quite quickly. So I went through a blue eyeshadow phase.
It's so funny. I feel like when you first get into makeup, for some reason that blue eyeshadow is like, why did we always grab that?
Right?
Like, why did we do that?
I don't understand. Like, I couldn't just start off with like a neutral little sparkle gold or champagne. Nope, blue. It had to be blue. Icy blue eyeshadow. I remember, I think it was a CoverGirl compact.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, I was still using those sponge tip applicators.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the doe foot.
Exactly. Yeah, it was that was my OG. Oh my God. Then I graduated to NYX, and then it just kept going up from there.
The rest was history.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. This gardener is really
getting them hedges.
Yeah, why did we do Wednesday? I totally forgot. But anyway. Ooh, this is a good question. I feel like a lot of people assume that you can't do physical activity or be active or do a sport just because you wear hijab. I know that you work out. You have a deal with like Fabletics, or you have in the past anyway. So like, how did you start your fitness journey? Because for me, I was like in dance team all throughout my high school years, and so that's where my fitness came from. But when I graduated high school, I was like, oh wow, I have to figure out how to stay active just for like health's sake. Exactly. So like where did your fitness journey start?
I feel like my fitness journey started when I was honestly a child, like a literal baby. Like my dad he really loved putting us in sports. So I started off swimming, and I did swim lessons from like 6 months old, like literally splashing in the wading pool, all the way till I was 12, like right before I started wearing the hijab. And I was like always an active girl in figure skating classes. Like I was always in something. In elementary school, I was, on the soccer team. I was on the volleyball team. I was on the basketball team, all of it.
Wow.
I don't know. I wouldn't consider myself an active, but now thinking back, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a lot of activities.
I'm pretty sure like at my 8th grade graduation, I won the gym award.
Oh,
yeah. I have a plaque somewhere at home that says that, which is funny. But yeah, I guess I've just always been active. But I remember the shift for me happened when I think I was 11 years old, because obviously when I'm in swim classes, I'm wearing like a regular swimsuit. And then when I decided to wear the hijab, I was just kind of like, ooh, like at that point, there were no modest hijabs, or there were no modest swimsuits. So I had to quit swimming, and I loved swimming. It was literally my favorite activity that I did growing up. And I quit because I decided to wear the hijab, and obviously wearing a swimsuit, I was showing all my skin, so I couldn't do that anymore. And I think that was the first time where I'm like, I want to like figure out what else I can do. Like, I don't want me wearing the hijab and my personal choices to affect like what I truly love to do. So I quit swimming, and then I think in school I just kind of got into soccer and all those classes. I was still wearing the hijab. By this time I was in 6th grade. So I just wore the hijab backwards, kind of like in a little turban.
Okay, yeah.
And honestly, I was still wearing shorts, I think, and like t-shirt with like long socks. It wasn't the best, but I was doing the best that I could. I was young.
Right.
But what's interesting is like the topic of conversation of like wearing the hijab during sports got brought up when I was younger, because at that time there were no sports hijabs. It was just like you wear whatever you wanted, and they were like, oh, this is unsafe, so you can't do that. And I'm just kind of like, oh, this is like another shift. Like now I went through that in swimming, but now I'm going through that in, elementary school and high school classes. So that was like really interesting for me, but I never let it stop me. I just kind of ignored the rules. I was like, whatever, you guys can kick rocks. Like it's literally a piece of fabric on my head.
Right.
Like, it's fine. Right. We'll be fine. And then in high school, I actually was on the rugby team. Yeah. I feel like not a lot of people know that. I played rugby all throughout high school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And actually my hijab was ripped off one time in a match.
Oh, really?
Not on purpose, but like obviously in rugby you're like tackling girls and stuff. So that was kind of funny. I think I ended up just finishing the game anyways without it. I had like a little like wig cap type thing on underneath, and I was like, whatever, it'll do. Right. And I just like, I don't know, throughout the years I just always loved being active. I think where I lost it was in college. Because that was the one time where I didn't want to do like college level collegiate, like what's it called, sports. So that was the first time where I'm like, I need to figure out how to be active in my own life, you know. So I started going to the gym, I think towards the end of high school, and I just kind of like found my space there. I really, really enjoyed it. My brother used to go as well. We'd go together sometimes. And then luckily throughout the years, I think like Nike started making a hijab. And then it kind of became there was more modest outwear or activewear available. But throughout the years, I just had to get very creative. It was a lot of long sleeves under t-shirts, leggings under shorts, all that kind of stuff. And then now I work out about 4 to 5 times a week. And I think like from when I graduated high school where I wasn't doing sports all the time, it was kind of like we had to learn for ourselves like how to be active again. And I really struggled with that, and I would gain weight and I would lose weight and I would gain weight and I would lose weight, and I'd really get into sports and then I'd lose it again. But I think now I've kind of maintained just a healthy, balanced lifestyle because I enjoy working out. I enjoy the feeling it gives me now. Getting there sucks, I'm not gonna lie. But once I'm actually there, you know, I feel really good about it. And I love like feeling the definition in my arms and like seeing like things changing in my body, whether or not the scale goes up and down. But I think like the aspect of being a hijabi and also in the like activewear space is really tough because I can only work out in leggings. Like that's the only thing for me. And like I try to wear modest tops, but you know, throughout even my Fabletics partnership, I would always get questions like, this is not modest. Like, how are you wearing this going to the gym? And it was just kind of like, I had to understand this is what works for me. Right. It's not going to work for everyone. And I totally understand that. Here are some options for you. But I'm not going to change the way that I work out because I've done that my entire life and it sucks. And like now I finally found a space and like found items that I feel comfortable in to like be active. And I'm just going to stick to what I know. Cause like I said, like I've been changing my entire life from quitting swimming because of my swimsuits and all of that. Now, thankfully, there's so many modest options, but before it wasn't like that. So I'm just kind of like sticking to what I know now.
Yeah. What has changed in like the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years in terms of like modest fashion and like choices that you have?
Yeah. Oh my God. Everything has changed, quite honestly. Yeah. I would say in the last 5 years, modest fashion in general in the fashion industry has taken off. Whether or not it's tied to hijab or not. I mean, we see on the runways balaclavas and like longer long line items, like flowy pants that go down to the ground. And I'm like, this is wonderful. Like, I love this. Yeah. There's so many options that like I can wear now from like Zara, H&M, or like even like the higher like Vince and like Sandro and whatnot. Like there's so many. Sandro. Yeah, we love a Sandro. There's just so many modest options now and I love it. It hasn't always been like that. I think the extra hard bit that I've, you know, now I feel like in the last 3 years it's been a little better, but it's like, okay, we've gotten to the modest part now, but now your sizes only go up to an 8 or a 10. So that's the other struggle. Right. And I feel like that's where my content has kind of shifted because as I grew up, I started getting curves and, you know, really learning my body. And then I really noticed like there wasn't a lot of spaces for modest curvy women and not a lot of places that you can actually shop at. Now, I mean, I love that like sizes are being extended and all of that. So it's great, but and especially in the activewear space too. I remember when I had my partnership with Fabletics, like every single month I was like, okay, well, this is not modest, so I can't wear that. This is not modest. So it was just kind of like they were really open to what I had to say and stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, thankfully, yeah. But at the same time, like I kept pushing. I was like, can you guys just please come out with a modest line? Right. I'm like, that would do so well. It's not just for hijabis. People love like, you know, other people just maybe don't want to show their whole ass at the gym. Like, you know, like give us some options. Unfortunately, it never happened. So hopefully in the future. Yeah. But there are brands that are doing it like Nike, Adidas, Lululemon just launched a whole like modest wear, like what's it called? Collection. Yeah. That's been really great. Yeah. Honestly, the modest hijabs have really revolutionized my life.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it really like meant a lot. Just like seeing a brand like Nike come out with a hijab for people who wanted to work out that wore the hijab. Yeah. Yeah,
because like I said, I feel like a lot of people have this preconceived notion that like hijabis don't exercise.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because a lot of hijabis don't feel comfortable going to like co-ed gyms. Right. And you know, that's not that's not a part where like I draw a hard line, but I know a lot of women do. So even that's really tough, trying to figure out like how to remain active, because our religion really emphasizes maintaining your active lifestyle. There's like specific activities that are super recommended, but it's hard when, you know, the Western world doesn't really revolve around like keeping women comfortable. So, you know, in the Middle East and stuff, there's obviously a lot of women gyms and stuff like that. And there's a few here and there, even in LA and a couple different places, but it's not accessible. So like having items at least that make you feel a little bit more comfortable in the gym, depending on your modesty style, like it's important for sure.
Yeah. How did you stay active during the pandemic? Did you do like a lot of at-home workouts?
Yeah, I did a lot of at-home workouts. I did a lot of YouTube workouts.
Yeah, me too.
I'm forgetting, I think it's Mad Fit or Mad's Fit
Oh,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, I would do a lot of her workouts. And then I also used to hike a lot. So they didn't close all of the hiking trails. You still had to wear a mask, which like very hard to hike in a mask.
Right, yeah.
But I fell in love with hiking. I would like, at the time I lived close to like Runyon Canyon, I think. So I would just go there all the time and just like do little walks and stuff. The hot girl walks were definitely very necessary during the pandemic.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's kind of how I stayed active. My apartment didn't have a gym in that one in the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay.
When I moved, it did. So I would go there periodically. But yeah, honestly, just walking really helped, both with like maintaining my active lifestyle, but also my mental health.
Yeah.
Like just being able to go on a walk. I don't listen to music when I go on my walks or even work out really. I just like to zen and just like listen to someone cutting the hedges, the birds chirping, people talking, like that. Like really, I mean, like I mentioned, I'm an extrovert, so being around even just nature and like people walking around, that like brought me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
So I'd go on like 2-hour walks sometimes.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What like advice would you give to someone who is trying to figure out how they want to stay active, but they can't figure it out? Like you said, they might not be comfortable going to co-ed gym or like what would you tell them?
Honestly, it's a lot of trial and error. Like I have done the personal trainer route, which I enjoyed. I've done group fitness workouts, which I've enjoyed as well. I've tried so many different things, but I feel like you won't really know what is your thing until you try many other things. So like ClassPass, for example, I don't know if you've tried ClassPass before. That's a great way to just kind of like experiment and like see what you enjoy. And I think there's like women only gyms as well. So like if you're not comfortable going to a co-ed gym, just do a quick Google search to see what, you know, women only gyms there are. Some gyms have like women only hours, so you might be able to go throughout those hours. But for me, I think my active lifestyle outside of sports started in, I want to say 10th grade. I had gained a lot of weight in my first year of high school. I mean, it was a lot of baby weight and just chubs and whatnot. I started P90X, which was an online program.
I've done P90X.
Yeah, and I did it for 3 months, and I did it at home, and I was comfortable in my home. I got to wear whatever I wanted, and that's when I like really fell in love with like working out again outside of sports. And that's how I kind of learned like what good form is and all of that. So honestly, I say start on YouTube first. YouTube or P90X or some kind of online program where you're comfortable at home, and then sign up for something like ClassPass to like try out different things to see what you like. I've kind of landed on, I do F45 now, which is like a group fitness type
I've
workout,
seen that before.
and I love it. I'm kind of addicted to it. Yeah, I've never been this consistent in working out in my entire life. Like consistently going 4 to 5 times a week. Wow. I've never done that. And I genuinely enjoy it. So yeah, I think just playing around, seeing what works for you.
That's awesome. Wow, this is such a good question.
Let's hear it.
How has hijab affected you in different beauty contexts?
Oh, that is a good question. I think in different beauty contexts, like in terms of like what I choose to like paint on my face, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. I think like it never really affected me that much. I feel like I wore it, and obviously there's different viewpoints with hijab and makeup, But I kind of just, like I said, always did what was comfortable for me. And just, I was like, well, my face is the only thing you can really see. So I'm going to make sure it looks good.
Okay.
You know,
it looks good with a T at the end.
Exactly. So I think like in the beginning, I was very experimental. I would do very crazy looks, super glam. Like, you know, I would just kind of like figure out what worked for me because I felt like I had to overcompensate with my makeup because I was wearing the hijab and that's the only thing you could see. Because honestly, your hair is a lot of your beauty. You know, for women, your hair is a lot of your beauty, your individuality. So like taking that aspect out, I had to be like, okay, well, how can I create that individuality and like, how can I feel like me with just my face, you know? So I think the YouTube journey has really helped me just kind of figure out what my style was. And like, I went through all the styles. I was the full glam girly, you know, I was the no makeup girly. I'm now kind of landed into, I feel like I've had the same routine probably for like 3 years where it's just like minimal makeup, but like focus on skin. Like I want my skin to just look glowing and I really focus on my skincare. When I
Your
found
skin, like your skin looks beautiful, by the way. I feel like I've commented this so many times, but like I always tell her like if I had skin like yours, I wouldn't know how to act. I would be the most annoying person on the planet.
Oh my God, stop. No, skincare really revolutionized me, I think. Like I think at the beginning of my YouTube journey, I never like focused on skincare. And then I got really into it after I graduated university and I had a little bit more money to spend on skincare.
Right.
And that honestly, because I feel like I was, like I said, I was overcompensating because I was wearing the hijab. That's the only thing you saw. I also had a lot of hyperpigmentation. And I felt like when I wore the hijab, you could see it more.
Right.
Because it's just like, it was a lot of hyperpigmentation around my mouth and dark spots and stuff like that. And I was super like self-conscious about it. So I'd kind of pile on the pounds. And then when I got into when I got into skincare, it was like this whole like empowering moment where I'm like, I could use products that like really help target the issues on my skin. And then I won't have to wear as much makeup. I can kind of just let my natural beauty shine through. And I feel like now I've gone into like my skincare routines over the past 10 years where I'm like super confident with it and it's worked for me. And I've been able to like really target those issues that I was insecure about. And now like I'm able to do like more minimal looks that like feel more like myself.
Right.
I love being able to just like enhance my natural beauty. And that's kind of what I do. I don't consider myself like the full glam girly anymore. Although I love a full glam moment, I love just like being able to let my natural features show with my hijab and just like look like myself and not have these like crazy lashes on anymore and like overcompensate with like the eyeshadow and the, you know, the 2016 brows, etc. So
oh my God, yeah.
I did it all.
Yeah.
I did it all.
Yeah. I also experimented with that, but I've never been like a full glam girly. So having the brows with no other makeup looked a little crazy. It looked a little insane. It wasn't working.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But yeah, how, like, I feel like you kind of answered this before, like this question, but I kind of want to get a little bit more insight.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like Black women who choose to chop their hair off because they feel like it's a new beginning and they feel like, you know, a lot of them have, because I watch a lot of like natural hair YouTubers, a lot of them feel like they became more comfortable in who they were when they shed. A lot of them felt like they were hiding behind their hair, I guess, like they used it as like a crutch almost. Yeah. And then when you got rid of it, it's like redefining what confidence means to you. For sure. Have you ever experienced that wearing hijab?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think for me, like I mentioned in college, I kind of went through an identity crisis. And like, it was the first time where I was like questioning my hijab, like, should I take it off or like different things like that. Or I just felt extremely self-conscious in it because I wasn't around my regular community anymore. And I think because of that, like I, you know, would change up the style because maybe it was like less obvious that I was wearing a hijab if it was like tied back, like in a turban or like, you know, my baby hairs were out, stuff like that. And I noticed like I was the most self-conscious at that time. And after I graduated, I was just kind of like, I can kind of reinvent myself again. Like I am going into this new career on YouTube and all of that. And I'm able to just kind of like really love and accept who I am. And I decided like, I'm going to wear my hijab like how I normally do again. And because of that, I was able to kind of like I wouldn't call it like hiding behind it, but I felt like I was hiding behind like this persona of me, you know, throughout those years in college. But now it's like, this is who I am. This is what you're going to get. And like, I'm able to just kind of like be fully myself with the hijab. Like, it really is part of my identity. And I think in the moments where I was questioning it, that's kind of why I had that identity crisis. Cause it feels like Aysha with hijab is just Aysha. That's who I am. And yeah, so I feel like because of that, also the makeup thing, overcompensating and like peeling back the layers now, like really just loving who I am, loving my skin, being able to like share my features and just like be so comfortable with myself. Like, it's allowed me to just fully like embrace who I am. And like, there's no hiding behind anything anymore, you know? It feels good.
That. Yeah. And you mentioned like how skincare kind of like changed your life.
Yeah. For real.
What are your favorite skincare products?
Oh, my favorite skincare products. Okay, so in general, I had a 10-step skincare routine like maybe 5 years ago. That was me. I had the K-Beauty skincare routine.
Me too.
Yeah, and I feel like it was kind of the thing back then. We were just so excited about everything.
Yeah.
I've definitely like chilled out more now. So in the morning, like I use a vitamin C. Don't go without a vitamin C. I use the Herbivore Nova vitamin C. It's one of my favorites because it has turmeric in it too. Ooh. Which like turmeric is like in my culture and like in a lot of like East Asian or like different cultures around the world.
Yeah, even
turmeric,
like South Asian.
Exactly, South Asian. It's used to like brighten the skin. So I love the fact that it has that ingredient in it. And then what else do I use? Honestly, the morning is just that vitamin C. I use a super hydrating eye cream and then just a moisturizer and sunscreen. Moisturizers, I just kind of like use, you know, I'll use one this month. And if I really like it, I might use it the next and then I'll switch it up.
Right.
My serums, I don't switch out a lot. And then sunscreen, love me some Supergoop sunscreen. That's kind of my go-to all the time.
Yeah.
At night, a product that I've used for years now, the lactic acid by Biossance.
Ooh.
It's one of the best products. I feel like it really helped retexturize my skin. I had a lot of like bumps all over my skin. It was clear for the most part growing up, except for the hyperpigmentation, but it would be a lot of bumps, like almost like congestion. So I feel like the lactic acid really peeled back the layers and helped like other products really seep in. So I'll use my lactic acid a couple times a week. And then I've recently started using retinol. And I'm still like, yeah, it's great. Honestly, it's great. I'm still like, does it make that big of a difference? I know it does. My skin has been clear for a while now, consistently. So I'm like, I'll use it a couple times a week. I'm not like a full-on retinol girly yet because I'm still trying to figure out like how it works with my skin. And then just like a super thick moisturizer and oil before bed.
Do you have a dry skin type?
I think I layer on my skincare as if I do have dry skin, but I feel like I kind of have a normal to dry skin.
How does it feel to be God's favorite?
Oh my God, no. Okay, I feel like in the summer it gets, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I have like pretty manageable skin. Shout out to my parents. They have great skin too, so I can't, you know. But I had acne growing up a little bit, but for me it was mainly the hyperpigmentation. So just learning about what products and what ingredients really worked for me. I think it was the ingredients part.
Right.
Because I think I got really into all the acids, like glycolic acid and layering acids on acids on acids all over the time. Like, you know, and I feel like because of that, it kind of almost made my hyperpigmentation worse.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned with my skincare routine is sunscreen, though. I think that's the reason why my hyperpigmentation hasn't really come back.
Same, yeah.
So I think, just layering on the sunscreen and the vitamin C. Those two things are like my ride or dies, for sure.
Even if you were black or brown, you need to wear sunscreen. And especially if you have like hyperpigmentation or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, you know, all the work that you're doing at night with your vitamin C serum or your, you know, niacinamide, it's all being reversed when you go out into the sun without sunscreen.
Exactly. Get into that habit for sure.
Get into it.
Yeah, because a lot of people will compare my old videos and they're like, how did you get rid of your hyperpigmentation? I'm like, yeah, I can tell you all the products I use, but honestly, if you're not wearing sunscreen, none of them are going to work.
Right. It's not going to matter.
It's not going to matter. So yeah, I'm glad I learned that like sooner rather than later.
Right. Yeah. What are your favorite hair care products?
My favorite hair care products, I've been loving the brand Adwa Beauty.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard of them?
Yes.
Their products are so
They sell it at
so good.
Sephora, right? Yeah, okay.
It's like the purple bottles.
Yes.
They have a couple white ones too. So I have like super curly hair. I would compare it to like a 3C4A type curl pattern. So like just really hydrating products. I actually learned of that brand through the woman who sold me my car. Her curls were so juicy, and I was like, I have to ask, like, what do you use? And she told me that hair mask, and I've just been using their products like pretty much since for like a year now. And then I also love the it's what's that brand that everyone uses? Olaplex.
Oh, Olaplex.
I love the Olaplex number 8 hair mask. That one, it juicy curls. Yeah. Like it just gives that hydration.
Yes.
I love it. What else do I use? I think that's pretty much it. I'm pretty consistent with my hair care. If once I find a brand that works, I just stick to it.
I don't really switch it up either.
Exactly. Which reminds me, I just finished my hair mask yesterday. So I have to buy a new one.
So you got it, girl.
Yep, that Sephora sale is coming soon, so I'm gonna be.
Oh my god, that's right.
Next week. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to put my list together and make sure I get on that.
Exactly. But yeah, Adwa Beauty, all of their products, honestly, but specifically their Blue Tansy line. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a shout out to any of your favorite like Black owned or like Muslim owned beauty brands?
Yes. Okay, my favorite now, I can't stop talking about them, Ami Cole. Have you
Oh my
heard
gosh. I have heard so many good things about them. I haven't tried it yet.
Their products literally changed my makeup like routine in total. So I first discovered them in 2021 in the summer. I was at a friend's house and she randomly had like a PR package and it said Ami Cole. I was like, I've never heard of that. And it had a big sticker that said melanin rich. And I was like, ooh, I want to figure this. So I ordered products and I was obsessed. Their skin tint is amazing. All of their products are amazing. And then after sharing them, I got a DM from someone, and it was actually the founder of Ami Cole. She's like, I can't believe you're using my products. Like, I've been watching you for years and I love your channel. And I was like, that's so crazy. And she's a Black Muslim woman. She's from Senegal. And she's doing amazing things. They're in Sephora now. So it's just like, I love seeing brands like that win. So yeah, I would honestly I'll just start with them and end with them.
Yeah. Okay.
They're doing great things.
I will take a note of that.
Yes.
So they have like really good like complexion products.
Yes. So they have their skin tint is amazing. I'm wearing it today actually. I feel like it just looks very much like skin.
Yeah.
I'll apply it either with a brush for like fuller coverage or I'll just use it like a moisturizer on my face. Their concealer is incredible. Their powders, they're all clean beauty. Mascara, honestly, everything. I haven't tried an Ami Cole product I don't like.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sounding like their spokesperson, but like honestly, I should be.
Okay.
No, we actually have done a few partnerships together. Okay. Like after I've been talking about them forever. So when they were launching in Sephora, they I guess had more marketing budget, so they were able to like finally launch something with me. So yeah, that was really cool. But they're a great brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I feel like this was such a great, like, insightful conversation. Yeah. I'm really glad that you were able to come.
I know, me too. Yeah. This was amazing. You had great questions, by the way. You're a wonderful host.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh, I love to hear that.
This was really, really nice. And I'm glad I got to see the Asia Casa.
Casa de Asia.
Casa de Asia. There we go.
Where can everyone who doesn't already follow you online?
Yes, you can find me at Aysha Harun, AYSHAHARUN. Someone stole my username on TikTok though, so it's Aysha_Harun.
Oh no.
That's the only place where it's different, unfortunately.
Oh no.
But yeah, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the things.
Yay. And be sure to check out her daily Ramadan series that she's doing right now.
Yes, you will probably see behind the scenes of this video.
There you go. Go check it out. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yay.